5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let go. Level up, 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 level up.
Welcome to Real Talk TV. My name is Roger Henry. I'm the host. Today we are at Link3 Recruitment, and it's really a pleasure to have Ryan Miller from Link3 Recruitment with us today.
Yeah, no problem, Roger. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Fantastic. Great to see you, Ryan. For me, in the short time, when I say short time, a few years that I've known you, I've watched you grow and develop. So would you like to just share where you're at this present moment?
Yeah, of course. So currently I'm one of 3 directors at Link3 Recruitment. So we're an education recruitment agency. So essentially we supply staffing to the entire school workforce. So anything from nursery schools, primary, secondary, and through to further education. We've been going for just over 3 years now within the education sector. We've done very well in a short space of time. Recently picked up a couple of awards as well. We won Startup Business of the Year across Nottingham. I also won an individual award for Black Businessman of the Year, which was, incredible to receive and, get recognition from my peers and the community. So that was great.
Fantastic. And just to go back a little bit, because all of that's amazing, and when people see you, they'll assume he's come from a background where he's had the support of his family, his friends, and I think in the community sometimes we've got this thing where it's all right for him, So if you just take us back to how your beginning started, it'd be really, really interesting.
Yeah, so I'm initially from Nottingham, inner city, Nottingham. I'm from Basford, grew up in the Basford area. As every inner city kid has, it's a tough start, it's a tough upbringing. But I was fortunate enough to have quite a good support system at home. Parents were very early on committed to education and academia and having us achieve. We were competing against one another for the best grades. I've got memories of being a kid. In order to go out and play and kick ball, we had to read the dictionary and memorize words and recite the words. They were very, very big on education. But it was tough. Mum was working 2-3 different jobs. Dad was trying to get things off the ground. It was, as every inner city kid, it's a tough graft. But very early on, I'd formed a relationship with education, and that probably stems from home life. I was then fortunate enough to go to primary school, and I had a really good role model, black male teacher, and again he had a really, really big impact on me, and he was probably in line with my parents and saying, right, this is a bright kid, we need to get this guy to achieve, forget what's going off at home. And it was turbulent at home, mum and dad up, down, lots of fighting, domestic violences again, lots of inner city kids see. But they were committed to getting me on the right path. And then going to secondary school, and again, I was fortunate enough to get another male teacher who just put me under his wing. And he said, this is a bright kid, we want him to go on to achieve as much as he can. So for a long, long time, education was, something that was very important. I remember Mum always, came back to the famous Malcolm X quote, which is, education is a passport for the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And, that is something that always stayed with me. And then at secondary school, I got to a point where I was preparing for university. So I was probably 18. And I think it was like a week after my 18th birthday, it was just, everything has changed completely. My brother was actually killed. And again, it was a bit of a contrast, really. He probably took the street education, that was kind of his path, where mine was a much more formal route of education. And this was, I remember like it was yesterday, a week after my 18th birthday, I got a call from my dad and said, look, I need to come get you. And as it was just a surreal scenario for him to be murdered. It's not something that any young boy, any young man, any young person can deal with. There's so many different factors in there that you're trying to kind of process and deal with. You've got your family, you've got that responsibility to wanting to support them, you've got your own mental and emotional well-being to try and manage. I've got a younger brother that as well, I'm trying to manage him and look out for him, mum, dad, everyone. You know, it was just a massive, massive impact on the family. And as you can imagine, that kind of sent me on a downward spiral. You know, everything that I was striving toward was put on hold. Everything just had to stop and my priorities changed. You know, college didn't matter, exams didn't matter, football didn't matter, nothing mattered apart from being there for family, and it built this rage and anger in my stomach. And I remember for weeks and weeks and weeks, I'm just in this dark spiral, and getting out of that is just, that was just a journey in itself. And I've probably got to say it was probably, you know, I had so many calls from people at school in the leadership that were just very supportive and wanted me to kind of get through. And I was just like, I'm at this crossroad and I'm like, right, you've got, do you give in to this anger, this hate, this dark downward spiral, this revengeful place, and go down that route and try and seek revenge? Do you try and get involved in a lifestyle that probably wasn't for me, or do I take the other route and find a way, climb, drag, scrape, and get myself through this period? And I probably have to say again, it was education that kind of got me through. My tutors, my head teachers, they all kind of just dragged me through that point just to get me through as best as I could. Now, I never got anywhere close to achieving what I probably should have achieved, but what I did learn in that time was perseverance. I learned inner strength. You know, I learned a lot about myself at that time, which was very important. And again, with the support of the education system, I've got to hold my hands up and say, you know, they were brilliant. And I went on to receive an award from Sir Harry Ginogly. They presented me with an award for perseverance and achievement at that time to get through that point. Off the recommendation of everyone at the Ginogly Academy, I received an unconditional award for Nottingham Trent University, despite not achieving the grades. It was based on my character. And the Nottingham Trent University accepted me, so I went on there. So, you know, all in all, I've always had such a great relationship with education, and as the universe does in very strange ways, it brings everything back around to you. So when I, you know, entered into the working life, I was presented with an opportunity to work within education, and I was just like, this is strange, this is weird. You know, and initially I worked for free. It wasn't a paid job, it was a free volunteers role. But I thought, you know what, this is education again showing its head, it's surfacing. So I thought, you know, I've got to go and just see what this is about. It's not about the money, this is about the experience, and, you know, just bringing everything around full circle.
Amazing story. Thank you for sharing that, Ryan. And, you know, in the years that I've known you, we've never really discussed that. So really thank you for sharing that. I just want to go back a little bit to, you know, when you were younger. You mentioned around the experience of it, being a child and being in an environment where it's hostile. You know, what used to go through your mind when you used to kind of be in that environment where your mum and dad was arguing? Did you ever feel like it was because of you or anything like that? Did you take anything on board?
You know, you always have to question that when you're a young kid.
The only reason I'm saying it is because I've experienced it myself.
Yeah,
and it really touched me. That's why.
Yeah. I think when you're a young kid, and you'll know this, there's, you know, so many different thoughts and questions go through your mind. But for me, I think the most important thing was protection. How do I protect mum, brother, sister, family? That was it. It was more of a protection thing, and I certainly felt the onus and the responsibility on that. So yeah, that was it for me, I think.
Are you the oldest in your family? What's your brothers and sisters look like in numbers?
Oh, okay. So well, again, inner city kid, dad. I've got lots of brothers and sisters.
yeah, sure.
You know, it's
I know that one.
yeah, you know that one. You know how that one goes. So I think all in all, there's probably seven of us. But in that household, there was 5.
Okay. I can see you getting really emotional now talking about it, and that's what Real Talk TV is about. You know, being able to kind of have the real stories which people can identify with, and I think what's really important is that honesty. You know, you touched on your brother as well. What was your brother's name?
Shane Miller.
And you were close?
Yeah. You know, as brothers are, you form a strong relationship. You know, there's probably some naivety there in my part, and knowing what he's doing but not really knowing what he's doing. And you know, he was a free spirit. So you know, he again, I think we've all it's been built into us. We're all ambitious people, but he knew exactly what he wanted to do and what he wanted to achieve, and he went out to do that. And he was very much on the road to doing that. But you know, you have to look at the way in which you're going to achieve these things. So yeah, it's still tough. It still hurts to this day. But you know, I think God presents these challenges and these obstacles, and you have to find a way to maneuver over them and past them and through them. But they build you. You know, they what define you at the end of the day. And like you said, we've never had this conversation, and I don't very often have this conversation with many people. Lots of friends wouldn't know this story, lots of colleagues wouldn't know this story, because they just see this.
Yeah, of course.
But what's behind this is a different scenario. So, yeah.
Was he a better footballer than you?
Not at all. No.
Just to touch on football as well, you know, I remember running Real United Football Club, and we came over with I would say quite a strongish team, and I remember we gave you a good beating that day.
Well, it depends which time.
Yeah,
it depends which time. The time I recall, I think it was a 5-1 win, and I put one in the top corner. So it depends which time.
Oh, we had many goals that were put in, but I think for me, what really stands out more was that at the time there wasn't many black footballers at the football club Clifton All Whites.
No, not at all.
Although they produced a few black players in their time, and I remember seeing the whole football squad, and then there was this tall, black, handsome guy in a white football kit. And over the years, me personally, I've always had a problem with Clifton All Whites.
Yeah.
You know, how did that work for you?
Yeah, you know, initially it was a problem. It was something that we spoke about a number of times with the manager, the chairman, etc. For me, I kind of took that completely out of it, and it was about the football, and I looked at the football club and who was involved in the football club and who was managing the football club, and you know, to be honest with you, they were very supportive of black people. They were very supportive of the black community, from manager all the way through. It just so happened at that time I was probably the only black player, but since then, now I think the squad's made up of predominantly black players. So, you know, I was probably at that time one of the first. But before that, you know, my uncle played for them, my cousin played for them, who went on to be a professional footballer for Tottenham in England. So to me, it was a bit more personal. There was a family history with the Clifton Football Club. So, you know, it made sense for me to go and play. And in all fairness, I had some great years there.
And we've always had the competition over the years when we was at Real United, and never once did I feel uncomfortable being at that football club. Only with the name, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
and I think it was more that, just the name of it. And I think, you know, they had looked at renaming the club, and there was discussions around doing that. Again, I'm not in touch with them now, so I don't know where they've got with that, but I do know those discussions were started.
But what was quite interesting is that they've always been adamant to keep it.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're an outsider looking in, you could probably misinterpret
and I
what
see
that's
that.
all about.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
for sure, I definitely see that.
You know, so many things, difficulties that you've gone through life issues, you know, loss of your brother, growing up in an environment where you've been kind of in a place where you've seen violence. Now, Ryan Miller, the man, you know, years on, age 33,
Yeah.
successful. We're going through this process at the moment, the coronavirus. You know, how have you managed to sustain your level of work during this difficult time?
Again, I think that comes down to work ethic, mentality, and long-term goals. You know, there's so many things that I want to achieve in education and out of education. I'm also a director for 2 other businesses. I've got an energy broker company, so we provide utilities to small and medium enterprises across the country, and I'm about to launch a new app technology as well. And the idea of the app is for independent small businesses around the inner city, for them to advertise, trade and sell on the app, and that will go straight into the community, and we're looking to put proceeds from the app directly back into the community to provide investment opportunities for different startup businesses as well. So you know, yes, I'm focused on education and that's my main goal, but for me, I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I've always had that mind that I want to diversify into different areas, and I think it's just work ethic. You know, I'm focused, and you know, we were speaking about this earlier, but I'm up early every day, 5 a.m. We're reading, I'm training, I'm trying to get ahead of the pack and get myself focused for my day ahead. So yeah, I think that's just something that was probably built in me from young, to want to better ourselves and want to, you know, go on and achieve things. And you know, the more I think about it, is I think that's where us as a people, we need to be moving towards. And in my head, the real key thing is generational wealth. And I want to be able to, you know, I want my kids to build on what I've achieved. I want my kids' kids to build on what they've achieved. And I think we're so far behind, not through fault of our own, but we need to start that somewhere so we can keep building and being on a level playing field, because that's where I truly believe where we're at as a people. We're not on a level playing field. We want to be, and sometimes we like to think we can be, but we're so far behind that we need to start catching up now.
Absolutely, and from an educational point of view, you know, national statistics show that, you know, black boys in particular are falling way behind when it comes to academic achievement. I think the girls, the ladies are further ahead, and that is a really major concern. You know, for me, Link 3 Recruitment, you know, to have such a fantastic team that you've got. You know, I know of Max, he was one of the players I was trying to sign for years, never managed to get hold of him. So, you know, working the way you do, how do you and Max kind of work together? Because obviously you've got your own visions and thoughts regarding wanting to kind of, you know, have Link 3 as an organisation that can help promote more black young men into teaching assistants and becoming teachers. Is he in line with your thinking?
Yeah, he's, you know, as a company, we sit down and we look at the different demographics. I think one of the, you know, the core things that we look at is that there's certainly a misrepresentation for BME staff in schools. I think when you look at, and that starts at leadership level, I think when you look at the statistics, I think black people make up 3% of leadership in the country, which is just crazy. And that's at an all-time high, 3%. You know, we make up 1% of head teachers. We make up 2% of probably assistant heads. So I actually think that because we're not represented in schools, this is quite possibly where we're getting a lot of challenges, and we're seen as the bad kids or the challenging kids. Well, actually, I think if you ever put someone in a situation where they don't see many people that look like them, that can relate to them, have been through similar experiences to them, I think you're always going to have you know, adverse effects. I think one of the things that I certainly want to achieve here is to close that gap of representation. You know, that's not solely what we do, and it's very, it's a difficult mission to achieve, because ultimately having the best quality and high quality candidates is the best, and our mission. But what we are able to do is target people within inner city communities and say, well, actually, we can put you through a level of training. You don't necessarily need to be a qualified teacher. Yeah, we might start at learning support or teaching assistant level or unqualified teacher level, but you're still able to have that impact emotionally on these children, you know, just to give them a bit of representation in school. And I think that plays a big part.
Absolutely.
I really do.
And I remember speaking to you the first time when we had these conversations, and you mentioned of a success story of a particular young gentleman.
Yeah, so we've had loads over the years, and actually a number of my friends at the minute have come from different backgrounds. Some of them might have been sport, they might, you know, they haven't got any formal teaching qualifications. They might just be, you know, it might be a level 3 coach, it might be a beauty degree, or, you know, something in retail. But what we're able to do is take them through a pathway, take them through a training journey, and get them ready to be into schools. And I think there's, you know, a lot of people don't know that you don't need to have a degree to work in schools. You don't need to have qualified teacher status to be in schools. You know, we can help you with that journey and get you into schools. So I've got a number of friends that have done it and are successful, have gone on to even be head of years within schools. One thing I do believe is that schools, you know, are aware that there is that misrepresentation. So I think they do want to get more black and Asian faces in schools to close that gap, to represent their children, because I think that's what's not there.
Okay. And obviously one of the big issues regarding recruitment of black teaching assistants from inner city, where you've got inner city schools, you know, sometimes they have a bit of a checkered past. You know, does your organisation, your company, actually look at that stuff as well to give maybe second chances?
Yeah, you know, we have to look at it, but to be clear, you know, working in the education sector, one of our main priorities is safeguarding, and that has to be at the forefront of everything. So we will review every individual case dependent on what that may be, but there's always opportunities here. We're never just going to close the door without going into things a little bit deeper and having a conversation. For example, there was a young man who we met about a year and a half ago, and he came in and he had got himself into some trouble. He had gone to a youth juvenile facility, and initially, you know, just from on paper, you would look at it and a lot of people would just close that door. But this young gentleman came across so sincere, so genuine. And I looked him in the eyes and I could see how hungry he was, how much he wanted to impact kids that were just like him. And we could see that. Myself and Max both recognised that very early on. So we looked a little bit deeper into, you know, his scenario and what had happened. And again, he'd got himself into trouble just from being associated in a group of people. He actually hadn't done anything himself. He was just wrong place, wrong time. So, you know, those sorts of things we have to look at. We explained that to the school. The school were open to taking a chance on him, and they had him in, and they absolutely loved him. He ended up going back to his former school, who we still had teachers there, and they embraced him with open arms. Since then, he's gone back to go and complete his degree and looking at teacher trainers as well. So, you know, there is that level of success story, and they're the stories that, you know, really warm us.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. I love to hear that kind of stuff. You know, that empowerment. We need to hear these stories rather than the negativity. I mean, you know, we hear so much of that, and I just think sometimes black youth can be depicted in such a way that creates a negative kind of perception for a lot of people. You know, if there was any advice that you'd like to give to a young person, you know, based on your experience, what would you say to them?
I think I would always say, you know, don't let your negative experiences define you. And actually, those negative experiences, they're made up of energy, and, you know, it could be negative energy, but find a way to convert that energy into positive energy, because to me, the way I view it is energy is energy. It's how you use it. And if you can use that and manipulate that in a way to benefit you, empower you and improve you, you know, you've got to go for that. You've got to do that.
And that's really sound advice. And what I really liked, what you said earlier, Ryan, was about your, you know, getting your mental health in the right place. Obviously, we've gone through this coronavirus, still going through it. We don't know what's going to happen. You've got a business, you've got businesses that you're running, you've got 2 directors, you've got people working with you that you need to keep, you know, maintain so they can live and pay their bills. You know, how do you manage that stress as a director? Although I know there's 2 more of you, but...
Yeah, you know, it does become quite challenging at times. There's often quite a large demand, and you know, people are always wanting to take from you. That's the role you're in. That's the role you signed up for. So I think, you know, it's just self-investment, because if other people have got to take energy away from me, I need to replenish myself and put it in other ways. And I do that with gym. I do that with reading. I do that with meditation. Socializing, family, and that's where I get my energy from. And as you know, as a director, people always need things from you. They need direction, they need guidance, they need advice, they need support. They may be going through different mental health things and different emotional things, you know, kind of going on. And again, I'm always learning. I think that's what's difficult. I've become very resilient, and that's sometimes a negative thing, because sometimes I can just kind of blow things off and say, well, that's not a big deal. And the way I look at it is, I've been through this and I'm fine. But that's not the right, you know, that's not the right way to look at things. You have to deal with every individual scenario and put yourself in that person's shoes. So yeah, I think self-investment is just, it's a huge thing, because people are always going to take away from you. So you need to be investing in yourself and replenishing that part.
And I would agree with you. It's survival of the fittest, for sure. I'm going to touch on the next subject, which is really, really important, and it wouldn't be Real Talk TV without having this very frank conversation. Okay. As a black man, how has racism impacted you personally?
Again, I think like every negative experience that I kind of go through, I use it as fuel. I use it as a positive. You know, I take the racist comments, I take the looks, you know. And again, it can be difficult, you know, within education. I can very easily, you know, walk into a boardroom full of head teachers or a conference, and again, I will be the only black person in the room. You know, there may be looks, there may be comments, you know, who's this, why is he here? There's all those sorts of things. Then there's, you know, in football, you'll know there's just open racism that you experience. Monkey chants, etc., that you go through. But again, just coming back to that energy, you have to convert that energy into something positive and use it as a motivator and use it as a driver. And it may be a skill of mine to take the emotion out of that scenario, and the way to hit back is success. That's the way that I look at it. And I will be here, and the next time you see me, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be better, and I'm going to improve on it. And I think that's the way of kind of getting over that and overcoming any form of racism or discrimination.
And that's really important to hear. I did have a conversation the other day with somebody, and I asked them a question. They were white, and I asked them the question of, how often do you think about being white? And they said never. If I pose that question to you, how often do you think about being black?
Every single day, without fail. And you know, it's a really, really interesting question. Why is it like that? Why did this person not look at themselves and think, all right, you know, today I'm white, but I look at it every day as a black person. And I think, you know, I've had this question over and over. I've had this question with my team actually about white privilege. And I think it's important that we're having these conversations. I think these awkward conversations are important. And you know, something that we do here, we do often have group discussions about race, about different privileges and different things, and we're very open and everyone's very receptive of it here. And it's great to get the different opinions. You know, there might be one person in the team who looks at something completely different, and it may even come across ignorant. But that's just, again, he's misinformed, he's miseducated. And again, it comes down to education. And I do believe education is the key.
And for us at Real Talk TV, this is what the show's about. We have to be in a place where we do ask those uncomfortable questions. For years, we've actually not done that. Or if we have done it, we've been seen as creating, you know, we're causing trouble or problems, and I think now is not the time. You know, for me, it's been a great pleasure, but I must ask you this question, as I do everybody else when we're coming to a close, is what does Ryan do for fun?
At the minute, not a great deal. I'm consumed by work and business, and as I said, I'm juggling a few different projects at the minute. But you know, when I do get chance, I do still play football. I still train. I love playing cards with the boys. You know, we're constantly, you know, playing cards. And again, just socialising, a bit of banter. That's a great release, and it's always good. You know, I've got a really, really good close knit group of friends, and we're all doing different things. We're all achieving different things. Quite a few of us in education, which is quite nice. You know, we've recently had a number of discussions on the black community and what we can do as a group, as a friendship circle, to try and impact things in a positive way. So, you know, I think my friends are a big part of it. You know, just giving me that release.
So you don't go out drinking and letting your hair down?
You know what, I started that at a very young age. At 15, 16, I was out early. And again, I did that for years. Then I actually had my own club for a period of time. And that was great. That was great fun. You're young, you're partying, you know, drinking, girls. It's the lifestyle. And then I probably got to 28, 29, and you realise how much resource it's taking, time, energy, money, and I've just kind of slowed down on that side of things. Going out for me is not really too much on the agenda. I'd much prefer to go for a nice meal than go out into town clubbing. So,
well, as a beacon of light for our black community, I was, you know, privileged to see you kind of collect your award as well, which you was awarded at the Council House, director of Link 3, as well as many other businesses. I know Shane will be looking down and be really, really proud of you, Ryan. And it's great to have your friendship. So I'd like to say thank you for being on this show.
No problem, my pleasure.
I'm sure you'll be back again. We can talk some more. But on behalf of Real Talk TV, I'd like to say a special thank you, and see you soon.
Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up.